Welcome to the May 13th, 2024 Troy City Council meeting. We are honored this evening to have Pastor Simeon Timbuk from the Bethesda Romanian Pentecostal Church to provide our invocation. So please rise for that invocation and then remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Heavenly Father, we are coming before you this evening, and we are thankful for a beautiful day you blessed us. I ask you to bless the city council members, the mayor, the meeting tonight with your wisdom and understanding, all the issues that are be brought tonight, Lord, to be for the benefit of the people, the citizens, the residents of Troy. And I ask you to bless the city of Troy, to bless the United States, to bless those who are in the public service, and your name to be glorified in all of this. May your love to be among us, the grace of your Son, Jesus Christ, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit to be with each one of us. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. I'll officially call the May 13th, 2024 Troy City Council meeting to order and ask for the roll call from Ms. Dixon.
First,
Here.
Councilmember Brooks.
Here.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Krenga.
Here.
Councilmember Chanda.
Here.
Councilmember Gunn.
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
Here.
All present this evening. First up on the agenda are certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have one this evening. C1 is a legislative update presented by Senator Michael Weber. I'll call Senator Weber forward.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Baker, council members, and thanks for having me back. Michael Weber served as the state senator for District 9, which includes Troy, the greater Rochester area, Sterling Heights, Utica, a small part of Shelby Township. This will serve as kind of more of a spring legislative update. I'm hoping to come back in the fall as well to provide a further update. And what I try to do is coming from a city council background myself, I try to think of pertinent things that you would want to know as a council person so you can do your job effectively for the residents of Troy. So I'll start off with the budget process. We're right in the middle of the budget process right now, and revenue sharing is always a big topic. The governor, did propose several different parts to the revenue sharing, and then we'll talk about the revenue sharing trust fund legislation as well. But 5% ongoing statutory revenue sharing increase for local units of government, as well as a 2% one-time allocation specifically designed to support public safety, and then a 3% one-time incentive for locals to obligate all of their COVID relief funds, or obligate and or spend them. In terms of the big picture, in terms of revenue sharing, looking at about a $322.9 million on the statutory revenue sharing part. On the constitutional side, that's $1.1 billion, but it actually went down a little bit, about $3 million it went down, and that was due to our January revenue estimating conference, and we're gonna have another one of those on May 17th, Friday, and those are what we use to try to obviously project what our revenue is going to be. And then adjust the budgeting process accordingly from that. So I still expect and hope we'll have a budget done by the end of June, hopefully maybe even sooner than that, and give you guys some certainty on revenue sharing. Wanted to talk a little bit about the boilerplate part of the revenue sharing, specifically the one-time payments for local public safety initiatives. That includes, but is not limited to, recruitment or retention efforts, training programs, new equipment purchases or equipment replacements, or capital improvements to public safety buildings or structures. All local public safety initiative expenses must be related to public safety, obviously. So you'll see more about that as the budget passes, but I think that that's an important part in terms of our public safety. In terms of infrastructure and infrastructure improvements, We are, it's been proposed by the governor, $95 million for federal match opportunities, federal matching dollars for transportation projects, and $40 million for priority bridge investments. There's also money for a road usage charge study to study the possibilities of replacing the gas tax in response to an increase in electric vehicles. So what does it mean, Act 51, in terms of cities and villages? It means about $734 million total in restricted funds, and that's a $36.2 million increase for cities and villages in Act 51 this year. It's also important to note that we are using more general fund dollars towards the federal match, and that's for two specific reasons. One is there is more federal match available, but then two, there's less state transportation fund dollars available for match purposes because we are paying more in debt service due to bonding. So that's an important thing, and I'll talk about some legislation that I think would hopefully help municipalities as it relates to paying off that bonding. Let's talk about the Revenue Sharing Trust Fund package. So I'm proud to be a part of this package. You've probably heard me talk about it before. It's a bipartisan package with Senator Jeremy Moss in the Senate, Representatives O'Neill and Tisdale in the House. The House versions did pass with very broad support, like over 100 votes. And it's also good to know that both the House and the Senate budgets are trying to incorporate the idea into the budget process for the first time ever. And so if that's the case, it's all but a certainty that this will come into place. To give you a little bit more background on it, it would dedicate a portion of the general sales tax revenue to a restricted fund for the purposes of distributing those resources to cities, villages, townships, and counties. It's a statutory protection in the form of the trust fund that creates a distinction from how we fund revenue sharing today, and it being subject only to the annual appropriation process. So instead of coming hat in hand to Lansing, you'll know that that money that's in that trust fund is dedicated in terms of the statutory side. And so this has been an idea that's been going around for a few years now, and I think we're really getting some momentum behind it. And certainly I support it. Lastly, I'll just mention in terms of the bonding issue that I just talked about, I am a co-sponsor of our Senate Bill 699, and that is a bill that would ensure that all transportation debt service is paid out of the MDOT portion of the Act 51 dollars. So that would mean, if enacted, roughly $30 million more in the pot for locals. And I think the thought process being, just because the administration or the legislature decides to bond the money, that it shouldn't come out of the locals portion, and you guys should get your pot of money separately from any decision like that. Lastly, just for residents here and at home, for more information and to sign up for our monthly e-news, please visit senatormichaelweber.com or call our office at 517-373-0994. That I can take questions or whatever.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions for Senator Weber? Councilman Gunn.
One question on the gas tax. How you said they're going to possibly change that because of EVs. Would it be that they would tax like charging stations?
So I'm not totally up on it, but I think in other states they are looking at doing basically like a miles used type of deal, but it would be offset by obviously getting rid of the gas tax. But the gas tax is between fuel efficiency with gas cars and then hybrids and EVs. We see declining revenue there, and every state's being affected by it. So I think people are, and I'm certainly open to other ideas, and I'm not wedded to this. I think that's why they're talking about maybe doing a study first. But we need to look at what that looks like going forward in terms of our dollars.
Seems like it just makes sense just to swap it out.
Yeah.
You're taxing gas pumps and tax EV charging.
Yeah. Okay.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Thank you, Mayor and Senator. I was going to ask you, but you've answered it. how likely with the Revenue Trust Fund, but given that you have a package in both the Senate and the House, that this may be the year.
It may be,
Knowing that
yeah.
Michigan, MML has been working so hard,
They
so
have.
many years, so thank you.
They have, yeah. Rep. Ellison and Rep. Tisdale did it last session, and then this session with such broad support in the House. And now, we tried last year in 2023 to get it as part of the budget process, and I think we had some momentum. It just didn't happen. But if we can get it into the budget process this year, I think, and then we make the statutory change, I think that's it will be a real help for municipalities, and really just the certainty too, for it, so. Thank you. Oh,
Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for coming, Senator. For the 2% match for public safety, would that be based on 2% of what our normal revenue sharing is? Because for us, we're at like 10.8 million, so that would be like 220,000. Something. Or is it based kind of on other factors?
that's a good question, and I will make a note to get back with you on that. I think it just says 2% one-time allocation, so I would guess it's commensurate with, with what you guys get total, but I will confirm that, and I'll send an email probably through the whole council or something like that so we can get the answer, but that's a good question.
It's about 10% of a fire truck, so we'll take it.
Yeah, no, for sure, yeah. It's, and I think it goes to, there's actually, I think it's because there's somewhat competing proposals with the trust fund proposal. There's also a proposal that the House has been talking about dealing with, specifically public safety dollars. And so I think this was kind of trying to have both of those ideas in consideration.
Sure.
So, but I will make a note, and we'll get back with you for sure.
Great.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
Just go on that. I think about including your picture. It's 4 pictures back that I remember a mayor sitting here challenging a senator standing at the microphone about the state shared revenue. And so it's a long time coming. For those that are watching and wondering, it kind of gets into the weeds, but when times get bad, if you can't count on that money, it becomes something. So thank you for that,
Well, yeah,
for that
and-
work.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And to the point, obviously, it being tied to the sales tax, certainly it will kind of ebb and flow with
Right.
if the economy in the state is going well or not, but at least it provides some certainty in that regard,
Yes.
so.
Any other questions?
No, just
I actually do have a question, Senator, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you have an answer, but do you have any update on I-75 Soundwall? Where MDOT is at with that, or what?
Yeah, so, I mean, the most recent update was, and we'll get, as part of this, the council member at Hamilton, we'll get that as part of it, but I think it's been, the initial discussion was they were going to do a lot of the engineering, and a lot of the study and all that kind of stuff in '24, and then build in '25. Now I think that may be doing that stuff in '25 and build in '26, but I'll get the latest from Bryce, who's been on it, and he's been working with the resident groups on it and this and that. And frankly, that's disappointing, but at the same token, I wondered if the initial thing was maybe a little bit ambitious for how fast or slow government works, but we'll get you more of an answer on it, so, for sure. I'll make a note for both of those, so.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate
Awesome.
the update.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Keep
Thank
up
you.
the good work. Thanks. Are the monitors they're both working now? I don't want to do the public hearing for the budget without them working.
No,
but
they're good.
Are they good?
Yes.
They're going to stay? All right. That concludes certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have no carryover items this evening, so we move on to public hearings. We have one this evening. E1 is the adoption of the 2024-25 annual city budget. I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Mark Miller, who will kick things off, and then I think he'll turn it over to our CFO, Rob Melzick.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll do a short intro and then turn this over to CFO Melzick. So I was sitting thinking that how many budgets that I've been responsible to present to City Council, and I was thinking, well, it should be 5, but I just sat down and did the numbers. I was appointed interim manager in 2018, but weirdly, in that 5 years, I presented 7 budgets to City Council, which is kind of funny. But
It's fuzzy math, Mark, fuzzy math.
part of my strategy was to retire after we went through this budget cycle, which was technically after the 5 years that I had committed to become city manager. And I think we're in a fantastic place. About 5 years ago when I hired Rob, I told him that he had to work on rebuilding the finance department. And I think over those 5 years, he has built a strong department. And I think the budget that you're getting in the document and how easy this went through really demonstrates his core staff has really been top gun now. But with that being said, technically the manager submits this to council, but I will say that the manager really cannot really do that. It actually relies upon Rob, Meg, Kurt Bovensee, Brian, and many, many people, and not just the highest levels. There's also people that have to work in gathering the data to help put each department's budgets together. And then there's some departments, such as police or public works, that have just a bunch of different business units. They have multiple budgets within their overall budget. So with that being said, we're presenting to you a balanced budget. I think we're in great shape. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rob to kind of go over the actual budget in a summary fashion. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Mark. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, thank you so much for having us again today. On April 12th, it was a Friday, we sent over the 366-page document over to you. And then on April 15th, we got together and we did a formal budget presentation. And if I recall, from my memory, that meeting went really well. We got positive feedback from you. We got lots of questions before the meeting, during the meeting, and we had a lot of dialogue, and I think it was all very positive. The dialogue was very open, very honest, and I think your questions were spot on. You guys did a great job with those questions, and I think we were very collaborative. The whole team behind me there, all the department heads, I think almost everyone got a chance to speak at that. We, divvied it down to the subject matter experts, and so what our budget this year did was it starts off of our taxable revenue. Our taxable revenue is $6.6 billion this year, up over 6.5%. Because of that taxable value, we have one of the lowest tax rates in the city. In the state. Our city's tax rate is 9.8640, and that's the lowest it's been in recent history. We're in policy in our general fund. We're going to have a 26.8% fund balance, which is between the 20 and 30%. The strategies that we focused on this year were we wanted to preserve public safety, public health, safety, and welfare. Nearly 60% of our spend in the general fund, again this year, is for public safety. Police has a new contract. That contract's helping us hire and get to full staff. We had our volunteer fire department we have a new incentive plan. That plan's working. We're fully funding it in this budget. Secondly, our strategy was capital. We have $19.6 million in our capital budget. $12.7 million of it is for roads. Matter of fact, the biggest portion of that is $4.8 million for Rochester Road from South Boulevard all the way down to Long Lake. That item is actually on this agenda, so hopefully you'll pass this budget, and then we're going to get to work right away in July. Scott's told me that in July we're going to start that project. Looking forward to that. Thirdly, we're going to enhance our recreation and park services. Sometime very soon in June, we're going to have the pavilion and ice rink amenity dedication. Can't wait for that. And because of that, along with other things, we're going to have additional spend for equipment, staffing, and all additional services that come with this new facility. So those are the three main strategies that we focused on. I know Bob had mentioned during the presentation that this was going to be the year of capital. We, in June, will have presentations ready to go with you with kicking off with the library, and we'll see where that takes us off of your direction. I can tell you that we are ready for whatever you want to bring to us. and we think that the best is yet to come for the city, and we're here to support any decisions you have. And with that, I hope you'll approve this budget. And if not, we're here to answer any questions that you have, me and the team.
Thanks, Rob. Questions from council? I know you guys, I see you have some notes over there. Councilmember Chamberlain Crango.
Thank you, Mayor. This occurred to me, this is my 4th budget since serving on council, probably my 7th since I've been following the city. I used to be part of the FIT team. There was a financial ideas team for folks in the community. And it occurred to me that, if you're new to following the budget, this might be a question, one would have. And so it's kind of rhetorical, but want to raise it for those who, just the answer may be important to those listening, is, people can see a large number, but it's a reminder, it's a budget, it is kind of a vision, and if you can confirm, CFO Melzik, never do we actually spend that entire amount. Like, we typically have, we have money left over, and that goes into something like a fund balance. Is that something that you would say yes to? Year on year, we're just trying to be, by imagining what might we need, it doesn't mean we're always going to spend that exact amount that folks are seeing.
Absolutely not. You're right. So first off, I'll start on the expenditure side. We budget for full employment. So we're assuming that that we have 412 or 24 FTEs. We are assuming that we're going to have all those people working. That will never happen. So that right there, there's some built-in that will fall to the fund balance. Secondly, you just heard Senator Weber, right? How do I say this? Being burned by the state in the past, I think Deanne would back me up on this one, that we're very conservative when we budget that revenue. So hopefully the economy stays up and the state can give us the state shared revenue that we budget. But probably every year we beat that number. So yes, so to answer your question, we will be better than our budget, except for when things happen, such as a VFIP issue or something like that. You're welcome.
Additional questions from council? Councilmember Chanda.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention, like, for public safety, I believe we have 42.5 million, of which about 33 million for police. Can you comment on how much more that is compared to last time or last year?
Yeah, approximately, police is up approximately 5 to 6%, and that's because the new union contract, along with a steady level of FTEs from the prior year. Yep, thank you.
Excuse me. Additional questions? All right.
Oh, Mayor.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
sorry, Ken. Go ahead.
Thanks, Rob, for all your hard work all these years, my 7th budget. I know that you talked about capital, and our road spending the next year is obviously going to be, for this year and next year, is very high because of Rochester Road. A lot of that, though, comes from federal revenue, correct? And so that
80%.
Yeah, 80% of it is federally funded. So I know I've heard from many residents about Rochester Road, why is it in such bad condition? It's because we were waiting for that federal money to come in, so 80% of it could be covered, because otherwise, if we paid out of pocket, it'd be over $10 million bucks, at least for that. So enjoy the construction barrels. They're coming this year and next year on Rochester Road, and for the sound wall too, but it's things our city needs, and I'm glad to see it in there. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Additional questions? All right. I'll open the public hearing. What's wrong with me? Public hearing's open. I don't see anybody signed up to speak on E1, the budget public hearing, but that doesn't preclude you from speaking. So if you'd like to share some public comment for the budget, now's your chance. I will close the public hearing and ask if someone would like to move the resolution for discussion. Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move E1, adoption of the 2024-2025 annual city budget as presented in the agenda packet.
Support.
Is that you? All right, sorry. My ears are bad. Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick, seconded by Councilmember Gunn, that we approve E1, adoption of the 2024-25 annual city budget as presented and printed in the agenda packet. And of course, there's plenty of backup online as well. Discussion. Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very proud of this budget. I'm particularly proud of the 1.7 million increase for our police department. As discussed, a lot of that was the new contract, which seems to have borne fruit because we've recently hired 5 police officers, and I believe we're getting close to filling the remaining vacancies. As also mentioned, we have one of the lowest tax rates in the state of Michigan for cities of our size at 9.864 mils. I'm proud of that. We have one of the lowest water and sewer rates, which we'll cover later in later votes I can mention later, but we do a lot with the money that we get from our residents. The average household in Troy will pay about $125 a month for in-city taxes. I know you write a much bigger check than that, but 73% of that goes to the county or to schools, and we only get about a quarter of it. And so that ends up, for the, like I said, the average household for $125, you get police, fire, parks, recreation, roads, and I'm proud of what we do with that amount. So I'm glad to support this budget. I know we have a lot of capital needs in the future. We have a lot of aging infrastructure we need to take care of, and those discussions will come up in the months to come. But for this year, I like where this is, and I'm glad to see it.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamilton. Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. Following those words of my colleague, I'm just reminded that a budget represents values, a budget represents vision, and a budget represents you, the community. We have done community engagement time and again, and we hear you say, number one, public safety. That is of utmost importance for you as a community, and so that is a top priority. Number two, we hear you say that our roads, our local streets, our major roads, it's fix those darn roads, and that's what we're doing. We are hearing you, and we're grateful that we get money from the federal government, that most of that gets paid by them. That is your money, your tax dollars coming back to Troy to support this community, what you want us to do. And number three, we heard you coming out of COVID, is you want more recreation. And we have heard and made real on a long-time vision, a vision that was here long before I was ever on council or lived in Troy. And that was to activate more and more our civic space and to have this pavilion vision with the Gene Stein Park. So I am overjoyed as a mother of a young child. When I'm with soccer moms, just a couple weeks ago, everyone was asking me, what's going on? What's going on over by City Hall? And I assumed everyone knew. It's been in Troy, we've had it in Troy Times, but a lot of people still don't know. And so I still want to get that word out. And I ask each and every one of you here, thank you for coming. The budget, I would say, is one of the, if not the most important night that we have as a council, is please take this back to your places of worship, to your friends, to your community, to your clubs. Let them know that we have this new amenity, and a lot of it as well came from federal funding. So again, not just your tax dollars, but there was federal funding that made real on a long-time vision to bring into the community. So I'm just so proud of that, and I just came off of a conference last week where we did a lot of talking about the role of public spaces and civic spaces in bringing a community together. And that's why I am so excited with the Gene Stein Park. This is another amenity where we can bring the community together through those outdoor films. Big shout out to Community Affairs Director Cindy Stewart for those. Whether it's films, whether it's concerts in the future, it's ice skating. We're doing all we can to support that. So please spread the word, because this is about you. It is about our community.
Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain Craig. Councilmember Brooks. My head was looking that way.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just want to say thank you to our city staff that has put so much time into this budget. A lot of people don't realize that we start budget planning way, way, way before this time. It goes all the way back to even the advance in November. We meet to talk about our priorities and the things that are really important for our city. And so we really have spent a lot of time leading up to this, even preparing for this moment to pass the budget. And so I thank you for that. And this weekend, I had a conversation with another city council member, and he lives in a different, I'm not going to say which city. But he was saying, oh yeah, he was bragging about their low tax rates. And he said, we have the lowest tax rates, and their mills are like 14, 15 mills. And I said, well, ours is 10. And he said, well, what about this? What about that? And I was like, and everything that he said, I had a counter for. And no matter how you slice or dice it, our city is pretty darn amazing. I mean, we're very tax efficient, we're very fiscally responsible, and I think that as a city, we really deliver to our residents what they care about and what they want. And so as Councilmember Chamberlain Kringa said, our budget does reflect our values, and it reflects the wishes and wants of our residents, and we really try to focus on our residents when we are creating our budget. And as you can see, the largest chunk of money definitely goes to public safety, which residents have over and over again said that is incredibly important. We want to live in an area that's safe and protected. We want our children and our families to be protected. We also care about our parks and recreation. And we're putting money towards that. We're expanding our trails. All of these things, we've definitely shown that the library is a priority as well. So I'm very happy with our priorities. I'm very happy with the planning that we put into the budget. And so I'm very happy to support the budget today.
Thank you, Councilmember Brooks. Councilmember Chanda.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I joined my colleagues here to, first of all, thank the city administration. I mean, incredible job. I mean, it's and it's hard to imagine how much work goes into it. So thank you for your dedicated work. I am also very proud to support this budget. I mean, it reflects the value of our city. We are, in many respects, a #1 city in Michigan. I take a lot of pride in that. Yes, school district, but it's not the only thing. We have one of the best public safety departments. We very happy to see that increase in public safety budget, filling the open positions for police department, as well as the road infrastructure. My wife and I, we were just driving down Rochester Road, and she was saying, what's wrong with this road? What are you guys doing? I said, well, we are working on it. I mean, we are going to make it really, really nice. I mean, that's why, the short term, we are not fixing the potholes, but we are actually going to make it one of the best roads. So very happy to see also investment in parks and recreation. It's the quality of life that makes us the city we are. So I'm very happy to support the budget. Of course, we have a lot of challenges ahead of us, the library, a lot of other infrastructure, as Deputy City Manager Brunner mentioned in the budget. It is going to be a capital investment. A lot of discussions are going to come, and we will work together to move those forward. We are ready to take those challenges head on, but what we see here today, I like it, and very proud to support the budget.
Thank you, Councilmember Chanda. Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
At the risk of looking like a complete rubber stamping body, I also will be voting to support this budget. I'm proud of the priorities. This is the binder that came to us. This is the type of thing we've been studying even well before the binder was brought to us. We referenced the advance. We had a robust, meaningful discussion at the advance. The work with staff starts the day, I think, July 1, practically, probably tomorrow. Rob will start the work for the next one. Putting my hat on as a taxpayer, I pay taxes. I don't want waste in my city. I want the priorities of high services in terms of public safety brought to me. I am a fellow resident who lives here, plays here, shops here, walks the parks. I drive the roads as well. I do drive Rochester Road. I'm ready for it to be repaired. What is the city doing, and is it doing it to the best of its ability? There's not only this budget study that we carry in with us, but for me personally, I even carry in all the analysis that went back to coming out of the the 2008 downturn, and City Manager Miller is about to move on from here, but he would remember those days well. And the learnings and the many studies and comparisons we did with other cities and how services are provided, those are still at play and part of the institutional knowledge that's here with our, planning our work, our budget, our work, and our staffing. We continue to be what I call a lean, mean municipal machine. If you've ever worked in a very, very lean organization, and I have, you know that means people are working at full tilt. And we deliver services as a city at a level that frequently amazes me. And again, I think back to studies and comparisons. We studied and evaluated everything from the city attorney's office to our building department to how we remove snow in the winter. How can we improve it? How can we continue to deliver these services in the most efficient ways possible? That ethos, is that the right word, is still part of the DNA in this building and with this staff. And I'm really proud of the work the staff does and what they achieve on behalf of this community, and want to express it's an opportunity to express my appreciation as a resident, not as an elected official. Take that hat off. I'm out here just shaking hands with people for the service delivery. Of course, from our public safety, our DPW, even the analysis of our parks and what we needed to do. People might not remember, but we had a whole team of residents that went and compared and looked at other cities. So sometimes I think if you're new to the process, you wonder, is that kind of analysis, has that gone on, is that at play? And if you see questions, come talk to us, because chances are we have done the very evaluation and the comparison at some point along the way, and it is having a bearing in what we do. The current one is the library. And, we've made some very conservative decisions about the library this year in terms of capital investments, because we need to pause and say, what is it that we should be doing? What is the fiscally responsible thing, putting our taxpayer hat on, for us to be doing with regard to this building when it is used and loved and valued and trafficked at high, high levels? What is it we should be doing with that? I look forward to doing that. I know we have now this foundational budget for going in, and really appreciate the work. And it truly is a conservative budget. We really strive to be very fiscally responsible and responsible to the taxpayer. And some of that's forced with an operating millage cap. That's at play, but it's also just a really great work ethic here that we enjoy, that we value, and we are very blessed in this community with the type of staff we have delivering our municipal services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick. Councilmember Gunn.
I will also extend my compliments to the staff. I know, having been part of that study, I see how much effort you guys put into this. And when I came into City Council, my initial thought was, I'm going to find some fat in this budget, and we're going to find a way to make things more efficient. And I'm very impressed by what I was presented. I think you guys have done a really good job of projecting out, and it is conservative, and I was looking forward to something, I thought maybe I can get my hands on and do some and make some suggestions, but it's pretty good. I'm very impressed. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, Councilmember Gunn. I'll try not to just repeat what 6 other people have said, but I probably will. You've seen the meeting before. Now, a couple things. So I'll start with repeating, of course, our thanks and gratitude to everyone in city staff for all the work that goes into this, starting back May of last year as we approved the last budget, and how that process works out, and really recognizing that I think it's important to kind of talk about something a little bit, and you've all touched on it in different ways, but this budget in particular really is, I think it's more of a bread and butter budget. It's not so much aspirational with big ideas and big projects. It's really about the core services that you expect of your local government to provide. And you've heard them say that our public safety priority, always priority number one in every survey and every conversation, and really in every decision we make. Our infrastructure and the roads and everything related to all the city infrastructure that keeps you all safe in a whole other level on a daily basis. And of course, the parks and recreation and what people are looking for as far as quality life outside of all the public safety needs. And so those bread and butter issues are what this budget is filled with, all 300 plus pages of it. Our comments, we've talked about it. I'm sure if there's infographics coming, they'll show some of that as well. Councilmember Chamberlain Kringa didn't ask about the infographics this meeting, so I know they'll be here. But that is what we hear you all consistently coming to us with. And it's what we all campaigned on to get elected at a certain point, or reelected for that matter. I mean, those are the priorities of our city. And so it's really exciting for me I love big, exciting, fancy, shiny object projects. I love our pavilion and ice skating amenity that's coming. I was just over there. It's going to be amazing, truly. It's going to be a next level amenity for our city. But none of those shiny object projects matter if we don't have a wonderful police department that we do, and firefighters and DPW and everybody that's keeping us safe, or if our roads aren't passable. So it's exciting for me to focus on these three priorities that mean so much to our community. A couple of you have talked about the conservative nature of this budget, taking out any political use of that word. It truly is a conservative budget. You hear Councilmember Chamberlain Kringa was asking about how that budgeting works, and we don't necessarily spend all of that money. And the beautiful part of our budget process is, unlike the federal government, we can't spend more than we bring in, so that makes it a little bit easier in one respect. So we know right there's a cap. But there's not a bunch of loose change and couch cushions in this budget. There's protections built in, so we can be nimble when we need to. There's savings built up when we need it for emergency projects, or God forbid, some kind of economic downturn. But it's not a place where you can go in and say, oh, well, there's $1 million that we're overspending on, or there's another $1 million here, or there's a bunch of problems in over budgeting. It's really not built that way. It's built to make sure the core services and projects are funded. It's built to make sure there's reserves when necessary. And that's it. We spend what we collect, and it's a very straightforward, transparent process. So if this happens to be your first meeting in Troy City Hall, watching the budget discussion, this budget document is online on our website. It really is very transparent and clear where every penny is collected and every penny is spent. And it continues to be that way throughout the whole year as our checkbook is literally updated online. You can see where all the money goes out. I mean, it's a very transparent process. I'm really thankful to everyone up here at this table, everyone in the community, everyone that works in City Hall and throughout the city for all the work and the seriousness that everyone takes in this process. And I think it's because we all know that if there's anything questionable about our budget process or budget practices, it's going to ruin the legitimacy of everything else we work on. The finances are what matter to the everyday taxpayer and resident of our city, because they're the ones that are lined up down around the corner, paying their property taxes or dropping them off in the boxes. They know that they're writing big checks to the city of Troy. And yes, the majority goes to other taxing jurisdictions, but they need to feel that what we're doing is a clear, transparent, legitimate process so that there's faith that their local government is representing them and being good stewards of their money. And the seriousness with which all of us take it, everyone on staff, everyone in the community who shares their input, that goes a long way to make sure that consistently stays at a high level and keeps people feeling like we're doing the right thing. So I understand sometimes there are budget items that people question. I'm happy, I think it was Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick said, ask us a question. You can email all of us in one group, city council email at troymi.gov. We'll then forward it to city staff so they can give some backup information. But we're here to talk about it. There's, like I said, There's nothing in this budget that isn't 100% yours to view and see and digest at any time. So please don't hesitate to do that. So all that said, I really enjoyed the comments of my fellow council members tonight. It really seemed to strike a consistent theme, and of course with the gratitude for city staff for getting us to this point. And with that, I think I'll call for the vote from Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. Robbie, you can start working on next year's budget. All right, that concludes public hearings this evening. Next is public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. There was one person signed up, but it was a mistake, so we'll ignore that. No need for reply. No postponed items this evening, so we move on to regular business. I-1 is board and committee appointments. I have no mayoral appointments this evening, but there are a handful of city council appointments, so I will turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick to make a omnibus resolution. How about that?
Thank you, Mayor. I will move that the Tri-City Council hereby appoints the following nominated persons to serve on the boards and committees as follows. To the Charter Revision Committee for the terms expiring April 30th, 2027, Mark Bartnick, Toby Biegner, and Lori Evans. To the Liquor Advisory Committee for the terms expiring January 31st, 2027, Annalisa Bloom and Ann Comiskey. To the Personnel Board for the terms expiring April 30th, 2027, Jeffrey Forster and Jane Parpart. To the Traffic Committee for the unexpired term that ends on January 31st, 2026, Dale Christensen. And to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the terms expiring April 30th, 2027, Thomas Desmond and Mahendra Kenkre.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga, that we approve all city council appointments as just read into the record and also printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion?
Just real
Mayor
quickly.
Pro Tem Hoderick?
Thank you to Mr. Christensen, who's here tonight and is stepping up to serve in the important role on the Traffic Committee. We appreciate you and all the others that are willing to donate their time to the city.
Thank you. The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you all for serving. We appreciate it very much. Nice to see you, Mr. Christensen, in person. That concludes city council appointments this evening. I-2 are board and committee nominations. I do have a mayoral nomination this evening. I'd like to move the reappointment of David Cannon to the Civil Service Commission, Act 78, for the term expiring April 30th, 2030. Wow.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve the reappointment of David Cannon to the Civil Service Commission Act 78 for the term expiring April 30th, 2030. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Motion carries. That concludes mayoral nominations this evening. I'll turn it back over to Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick for city council nominations.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to move that the Tri-City Council hereby forwards the following nominated persons to serve on the boards and committees as indicated to the next regular city council meeting for action. To the Historic District Commission for terms expiring on May 15th, 2027. I'm moving the reappointments of John Howard Adams and Timothy McGee, and a new appointment of Abby Swaminathan. And to the Liquor Advisory Committee for the term expiring January 31st, 2027, Andrew Kaltsonis. And to the Personnel Board for the term expiring April 30th, 2027, the reappointment of Pamela Gordon.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve as city council nominations for action at the next meeting, all of the names just listed in for the commissions and boards as stated into the record. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chanda,
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick,
Yes.
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Yes.
Motion carries. That concludes city council nominations to board and committees this evening. Next up is I3. We do not have a closed session requested this evening. So we'll move on to I4, which is amendment to Chapter 20 of the Troy City Code, water and sewer rates. There is a late submittal on I4 for a couple, like, minuscule changes, it looks like. And I'll turn it back over to CFO Malzek for the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This is our annual adjustment that we make to Chapter 20. What we do each year is put the new water rates into the ordinance. And so what I really like about this year is Councilmember Hamilton's mentioned this before, that the rates that we're putting in this year are the same rates that from last year's budget we had 1 year out. Because we have a 3-year budget, it's much easier for you guys to see the trend that we're going at. And the main reason for the increase is because we're passing on the cost for our water and our sewer rates from the organizations where we get the water from, Great Lakes Water Authority and the 2 sewer rates. And also to help, we've spent a lot of capital in the last couple of years doing the Big Beaver Relief Sewer and also Evergreen Farmington sewer relief. So we've had a lot of costs there, and so we're now just recapturing those costs. Again, we have no debt in our water and sewer system, which is phenomenal. And with that, I hope that you'll pass this.
Thank you. Any questions? Someone like to move the resolution? Councilmember Hamilton.
I'll move I4 amendment to Chapter 20 of the Troy City Code, water and sewer rates as printed in the agenda packet,
Support.
and including the late submittal.
Support. Yes, still
All
support.
right, moved by Councilmember Hamilton, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve I4 amendment to Chapter 20 of the Troy City Code as printed in the agenda packet and subject to the late submittal. Any discussion? Councilmember Hamilton.
As I mentioned earlier in the budget discussion, we have one of the lowest water and sewer rates around. I'm extremely proud of that. I've looked at nearby townships and other communities. You can see double or triple the rate for the same amount of water usage. So I'm very proud of this. I'm glad to support it. And we're part of what we do.
Very good. Any other comments? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Gunn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick,
Yes.
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is I5, approval of the Troy Downtown Development Authority, TDDA, proposed fiscal year 2024-25 and 3-year budget, and that'll be introduced by Mark Miller, our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you, you have the Downtown Development Authority budget for fiscal year 24-25 and the 2 following years. I'd like to provide a quick little history lesson. Coming out of the Great Recession, where we had severe property devaluations, there were about 8 or 9 properties. Their value went below the base value of 1992, 1993, when the DDA was created. So therefore, that was going to cause a negative capture, and therefore the DDA would not have revenues. And there was naked bonds only backed by the Downtown Development Authority, which were outstanding at the time. And so what we were able to do is eliminate those 8 to 9 properties from the TIF plan. And in doing so, they were no longer part of the TIF calculation, so there was a positive revenue cash flow. And the city allowed the use of the city's AAA bond rating to float new bonds to cover the debt. Now, most of that debt, and so that debt, because of that, that debt is the most important thing that the revenues must cover. And I'm not stating that very clear. The revenues must be dedicated to cover that debt. And then any funds left over can be reallocated. Well, when we did this, we had no idea if it would work positively, and it actually has worked. I think we all should just be thankful that it has worked very well. And combined with Somerset Collection making payments from the construction of the parking deck on the north side in the mid-90s, there was an agreement made, and they paid the Downtown Development Authority approximately $4 million. And so that was actually then used to pay down the debt and then refinance the debt again, and at that time, we were in low interest. So the DDA is a good position, and if you notice in the upcoming budget year, there is about, let me look at this, about, for the landscaping project, just under $3 million identified in this fiscal year. As you notice, there's some and that's the landscaping project, which is primarily around in the Big Beaver right-of-way underneath the I-75 overpass in the DDI. And so that project is going to start off, and a good portion of work is going to occur, but it will continue into next year. And this budget does include approximately $1 million going forward for that. And then there is no other funds programmed or budgeted for other landscaping work in Big Beaver. So both the DDA is going to have to look at that, and along with the CFO, Malzek, decide what and where other landscaping will occur down the road. And none of that has been budgeted. But the budget is pretty similar to previous years. There are no other unusual costs, and everything else is in line. So the DDA did recommend approval of this, and as the executive director of the DDA, I recommend that the city approve this also. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Miller. I should also note there is a late submittal for I-5, which includes backup memo and material. Any questions? Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a couple. So City Manager Miller, one of those properties that was taken out, that is the Kmart. One of those is the Kmart property. Is that correct?
Yes.
I mean, nothing can be done to put that back.
You mean the Kmart headquarters?
The headquarters that will be experiencing redevelopment, yes.
Well, I think that the city council and the DDA, if they want to adjust that and look at that, I think you're going to have to really work closely with your city attorney, because I think that by removing those properties, they very likely will not be able to go back in. But on the good side, that would mean that all the capture from any redevelopment on the Kmart site will go to the general fund.
Thank you. Other question, marketing, I ask every year, and there's a particular reason why. So I did notice that 2023 was $5,000, so wanted to ask what that was. And then it's estimated that this year, by the end of this fiscal year, end of June, you will have spent $25,000. So just, I'm excited that there was the potential that it's going to be used. So would love to hear more about that.
Absolutely. The DDA has been looking closely at how to expand the marketing in the area, and we are planning on really tackling that initiative when we get our new communications director over. We'll have a staff member at that time who will be able to spearhead that project and work very closely with the DDA to promote the businesses throughout the entire district.
Do you think there'll be time between now and the end of this current fiscal year to use some of it?
No.
And just as a what was the 5,000 used in the previous fiscal year?
I believe that some of that was for the signs that were in the DDA.
I'm not sure.
I'm actually not sure.
We can circle back later. But I am just excited, and I think part of my theory of change on this was maybe the reason why it was hard to move forward on that marketing money was not having the staff member to really have that know-how to manage it. So that is exciting. So I'm looking forward to that.
Just 1 second. Wow.
Okay.
Go ahead, City Manager Miller.
All right, I want to go back to that question. So were you talking about marketing or district promotion? Because
I'm under district promotion.
district promotion was,
I don't see a marketing line item. in
okay, the
budget
district
right now.
promotion, the money that has been spent has been for the traffic jam. the DDA and the city.
The event, not bad traffic, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what, both the city and the DDA contribute to that event.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
that. That's wonderful. Oh, I didn't realize that.
I want to follow up on that just a little bit. I did ask the question, I believe, at the last DDA meeting. I said, hey, could we talk about this at our October meeting, please, and what we plan to do for district promotion? Because I share your excitement about that potential, and I also potentially share your frustration with the lack of action happening. So I'm happy to hear that's the plan moving forward, and I'll keep pushing in the DDA for the same thing, because I think it's important, also citywide, but that's another topic for another time. Councilmember Gunn.
My question is back to the landscaping. So I did nothing budgeted in '23, 2.9 this year, million next year. Why nothing in 2 years following? Wouldn't there be some sort of, at least maintenance landscaping?
Well, there is another line item for maintenance. It is Big Beaver Corridor Maintenance. We're estimating 570,000 and change coming up, and then in '25, 599,000.
Right, so, but I mean, the million, is that like a planned?
It's actually the construction for new landscaping in the right-of-way.
Okay.
And I think a lot of those decisions and review may have been before your time on council, and maybe we can provide you some sketches and a
Gotcha.
summary of what the project will entail. In fact, construction is going to get going pretty close here, and then there's, I think there might, Kurt, is there going to be lanes closed as part of that? I forgot, it changed, yeah, there'll be lanes closed under the DDI, so you'll know when the construction's
Okay.
happening.
Got it.
Then, yeah, if you could send him, I think that's on the website too, but if you could send it. But the other part of that, my expectation, Councilmember Gunn, is that we will spend approximately $1 million for the next 8 years after these 2 years to complete that 10-year-long project. That's what the expectation is based on where the budget is likely to be. Obviously, we can't do that all now because we don't know for sure, but that is the plan. And there's been a lot of meetings and a lot of design and a lot of plans for what the whole corridor will look like. So that is expected. I think it's just smart budgeting not to actually include it yet without it having plans in place, my guess. Before I go back, any other questions? Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Just related to that for our new council members, when the I-75 update and the new DDI came in, you know, we got new bridges, we got a new I-75, which we needed desperately, but landscaping was not part of MDOT's on Big Beaver, was not part of MDOT's plan or in their budget. So anything that was going to happen in that regard to what is arguably a key gateway to the city needed to happen from the city side, and it's the DDA that took that on for your background. So that has been in discussions for a while, and you know, maybe we can even point you back to some of those presentations if you want to catch up, or if members of the public are wondering what we're talking about. Often, when a project is about to start, it's a project that's been in the plans. Government moves slowly, and so it's been years in the making.
Any other questions before I go back to? Okay,
Yeah, maybe
Councilmember
just a
Chanda.
question because I'm new and I wasn't involved with a lot of these. I think Mayor Baker, you mentioned like there's about $1 million for next many years on DDA landscaping. Is that the rest of the Big Beaver corridor or what? Okay, so all the way to the east?
I'm going to get in trouble for probably saying that, but within the DDA boundaries, yeah. So just west of Coolidge and just east of Rochester Road.
Okay.
There's a whole design and plan.
We get a lot of comments saying, okay, it looks wonderful until 75. After that,
Right.
doesn't look as good. So that's the plan we are trying to do too.
And part of it is to make that west side, the east side of I-75 and the west side of I-75 on Big Beaver consistent. Consistency through nature is the theme actually, and so that whole DDA 3.2 miles or roughly what it is will be the same. I still think while we're talking about it, the city needs to look at what happens to the rest of Big Beaver as we move all the way down to DeQuinder, because that's equally important to our city and economy, and I'd hate to have it look like there is a drop off because it goes from DDA back to city, but we don't want it to feel less.
In the long term, we will do that, but okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, did you have a follow-up? Sorry about
Hopefully,
that.
quick question. I used to serve on the DDA, so I love this stuff. So with the QDI, the Quality Development Initiative line item, it's kind of flattish. Is there still just one QDI, or is there expectation of having any more? It doesn't seem like it if maybe it's a little bit flat. Just
Yeah,
wondering.
there's two. There's obviously 888 Big Beaver, and then almost right across the street, right, Rob? Yeah, it's owned by Dennis Bostic. It was, and I forget the name of the development. I think it's the one under construction right now.
It's not. It's the one next door. It's the 801 West Big Beaver project. The
So
Huntington
the
Bank.
construction hasn't started on it yet, but then the capture will come once that happens.
When did that second QDI, when did that get approved by the DDA?
In the past year or so,
Okay.
Probably longer.
maybe a bit
It
longer.
was longer because, yeah.
I mean, if, we can get that answer to you. if you
Just
want.
curious. That's
Okay.
great. That's great. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Any other questions about I-5? Someone would like to move the resolution?
I'll move it, Mayor.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
I'll move I-5, approval of the Troy Downtown Development Authority, TDDA, proposed fiscal year 2024, 25, and three-year budget, subject to the late submittal.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Chamberlain Craig, supported by Councilmember Chanda, that we approve I-5, approval of the Troy Downtown Development Authority, TDDA, proposed fiscal year 2024, 25, and three-year budget as printed in the agenda packet, including the late submittal. Any further discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hamilton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick,
Yes.
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig,
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda,
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is I-6, approval of the Troy Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, TBRA, proposed fiscal year 2024, 25, and three-year budget. That'll be introduced by Mark Adams, our Economic Development Manager.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. The Brownfield Authority was set up to assist, giving a little background information on that. Most of you already know it, but maybe for our audience, was created to assist with environmentally challenged, obsolescence, and blighted property. It's a good tool to use because it allows us to take properties that are undervalued and have them increase in taxable value over a certain period of time. We have 6 active brownfields right now, and each one started with a baseline of where it was at tax-wise. And I think 4 now are actually in the construction phase, and we're going to see an increase in value. And what happens is that it's certain reimbursable costs that we can use based upon the incremental increase in taxable value for those properties. Again, it's a great tool to use. It's something that Troy has been very active in for a number of years. And as you can see from the budget that was put together by Rob and Kelly, they do an excellent job of crunching the numbers, and the work that this board does is top-notch. And I want to thank Mark Miller and Lori and Bob and Meg, because we're all a part of this. And our board has recommended approval of the 3-year plan. And as you can see, we are generating positive cash flow from those projects. And we look forward to working with more properties within Troy to increase the taxable value and the viability of those environmentally or blighted or obsolescence properties. So with that, I respectfully request your approval of this budget and can answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions regarding the brownfield? Is that your hand up? No. That was you, right?
Yeah.
I was behind Ellen, so I couldn't tell. So Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor.
No, it's okay.
So I see, is Uptown's capture done with the 24 budget?
Yes,
That'll-
that's great. Uptown is done. We had the last reimbursement this year, so that's completed.
All right, so we'll get the full revenue on that. I don't see anything for Harrison. That project's been, we
It's,
approved that a long time ago.
yeah, it's been mired in some environmental issues and some stuff at the state, so they haven't started as of yet, but we hope that they're going to start fairly soon.
Yeah, for residents, it's by where all the car dealerships are, like Stutz Drive, which is right next to that.
Mayor, I just would like to add a comment. That one is really complex because they're building on an old landfill.
Right.
And they have to dig footings to bedrock through the landfill. And just so that you understand, these can be very complex and difficult projects to build, and that's why they're eligible for Brownfield Redevelopment Authority.
Yeah, I think we approved that 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
ago, so it was a long time.
I think
But
it was
yeah,
amended
sometimes,
too, yeah.
sometimes they take a while, but nope, and then Regency, this was the last year for Regency. Yeah, the way these works is the extended taxable value goes back to the builder and to cover environmental costs, as you say, and then once that's done, then we get the full revenue back. And
That's correct.
so that's nice.
There's certain reimbursable costs that's approved ahead of time that we can reimburse from the increase in taxable value.
Yeah, so 600K that was going to Uptown, we'll get, I don't know, a quarter of that back, because the rest of it goes, as we said, county and schools and everything, but it's nice to see.
That's why it's such a good tool.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Councilmember Gunn?
Just a question as one of the new councilmen. How long do some of these projects take on average?
You know, they all vary depending upon the size of the project and what they're trying to accomplish. Sometimes it's vacant land where maybe it won't take that much time, and other times it can be buildings that they're tearing down. So generally, I think once the project starts, probably within a 5-year period, maybe a little less, we should see an increase in taxable value. Sometimes it's quicker than that. There's a project, the Village of Troy, that we think probably in its second year, it's going to start getting reimbursed.
Then do you look for additional projects to replace what's completed?
Yes, we market our brownfield program to developers and realtors, and it's a good network of environmental companies that know that Troy has an active brownfield program. So yes, we go out and do that.
Any additional questions? Councilmember Chanda? Or Councilmember, what are you, Mark? City Manager Miller?
Okay, so I just, it was a good question, but if you look at your budget, property taxes, TCF, that was probably not the best brownfield. It was, it remediated the Harbidian asphalt plant, and it was done in 2004, Lori, probably around 2004. And it will go on for years and years before they can repay the eligible expenditures. So it looks like, you know, that was early on in the process. The city was doing brownfields and probably didn't do a good enough analysis to figure out that there was going to be enough capture to reasonably pay back. Because it's been going on for 20 years, and then, you know, they're chipping away at, you know, $14,000 a year.
Well, here's a good question to that, Mark. Who on city staff, or who in City Hall is making those analysis? They're making that analysis for the city to determine length of time which is appropriate.
That would be when we were approving the,
Right, but moving forward with a new project, is that something that a developer is proposing to the city, the time frame, or are
Yeah,
we coming back and saying these are parameters? We're in the weeds now, I apologize.
Yeah, we are a little bit in the weeds, but basically, first of all, there is no limit. So this is money that is, you're collecting it as it goes. So you're reimbursing only those expenses, but out of the increment. So it really is dependent upon how much increment there is to be available for the payment.
But my question was, is it city staff, is it City Hall that is, ultimately, we approve the plans, but like 20 years ago, you were in the planning department. Was that something you were working on?
Doug
No.
Smith.
Okay, but is it a planning department function that's working? No.
No, it's a coordination of Mark Adams and with finance team and assessing.
Okay,
Of course, city attorney looks at the plans also.
okay.
And also our board, we have discussions during that period of time. But again, it's only a payback if the value increases through the increment.
Sorry, you brought it up, so I had to ask the follow-up question.
But with that being said, all of the brownfields we've had have really finished off in, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. It actually has become very positive, with the first one being the MGR Theater. That paid off fairly quick.
Right.
And most of them do, because I think, I maybe chalk it up to a better review and estimate of what the capture will be. Because probably what happened with the TCF is that the capture was overestimated.
Gotcha.
And we have work plans that we look at that does an analysis of what we think the value is going to be. And then our assessing department and Rob's department, they take a look at it also to make sure that, it's not pie in the sky numbers.
Additional questions on the I-6 budget approval for this year?
I had the question, but Mayor Baker is one step ahead of me, so yes. You already asked that, what is the criteria you used to, decide if something is brownfield or not, but I guess got the answer. But is there anything in the horizon in next year or so that we are looking at to make it part of the brownfield development project?
Yes, we've been contacted by a couple of developers that have projects under consideration right now, but nothing that's really concrete.
Unintended. All right. Did we move this resolution yet? I can't remember. No, someone want to move it?
I'll move.
Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move I-6, approval of the Troy Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, TBRA, proposed fiscal year 2024, 2025, and 3-year budget as printed in the agenda.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Brooks, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig, that we approve I-6, approval of the Troy Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, TBRA, proposed fiscal year 2024, 25, and 3-year budget as printed in the agenda packet. Any further discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up, I-7, approval of the Joint Local Development Finance Authority Troy Subcommittee, LDFA, proposed fiscal year 2024-25 and 3-year budget, also introduced by Mark Adams, our Economic Development Manager.
Again, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. And for some of the council members that serve on the board, they're very familiar with the local Development Finance Authority, and some of our new members may not be as up to date. But the LDFA is at Big Beaver and Billingham. It's a 75-acre certified industrial park, and the anchor tenant there is Automation Alley. And Automation Alley, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, was really, I think, sort of the genesis of what the LDFA is trying to accomplish, because it's sort of like a economic think tank. It started as a business recruitment incubator. Now it's more of a think tank, and now it's dealing with Industry 4.0. Now, the purpose of the LDFA is to provide funds for infrastructure within the park, and also it provides operating funds for Automation Alley. And Automation Alley is really a great tool that the city of Troy can use for businesses that are looking to locate within Troy. And they have what they call a soft landing spot for some of these foreign businesses that are taking a look at Troy. And an example of that was just today, I had a foreign business that came in that was looking at Troy, and I gave them an overview of the Michigan business climate and suggested that they contact Automation Alley and maybe for what in economic development terms we'll call a soft landing. They have space there, where incubator space there, to where they can house you if some's available for a month or so. So I just wanted to share that with you because that's a sort of a part of why the LDFA was created for the economic benefit of Troy. But also, again, the purpose of the tax capture within the LDFA is for the infrastructure within the park and the operating costs for Automation Alley, which they also have a business accelerator smart zone. And again, those are just fancy terms for technology businesses and good buzzwords that we can use when we're marketing Troy or our regions to companies to locate here. And as you can see, that particular 75-acre certified technology park continues to generate positive cash flow, and we're able to meet our obligations whenever they're called upon, if it's a parking lot that needs to be fixed, and to continue with assisting with Automation Alley's operating fund. So again, the LDFA board did recommend approval of the budget, and they recommend that City Council takes that under consideration. And I'm able to answer any questions. I don't know if Mark wants to add anything to it. Okay.
Councilmember Gunn?
These are more operational questions, but when you say soft landing, if a company comes in and they use the property for a while, can they move to another city?
Yes. They're not obligated to stay within Troy.
Right.
As you know, as the business people that up here, you can't put those types of obligations on people.
Try to tie them down, but, and is it only foreign companies? Can domestic companies?
Yeah, domestic companies can, but mostly it's foreign companies that they market it to, because we feel that they have the biggest need, because they come in and maybe cultural differences. It may be more of a competition for those particular firms, but they don't stay very long, and they have very limited space. It's not what I would call a real incubator where, it's incubator space for businesses coming in. I think they got 4 or 5 offices there, and they allow them to use it as they determine whether or not they have the businesses that they need in order to be successful.
Okay.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig?
Just real quick, it doesn't have to do with the budget per se, but with Automation Alley, I'm reminded it's been about 2 years since at the Mackinac Policy Conference, it was announced the World Economic Forum was chose Automation Alley as this innovative hub. Do you have any updates? I actually have never heard what has happened with that, and just curious to know kind of what transpired.
City Manager Miller?
You talking about
The World Economic Forum?
yeah, WHO?
No.
No, I'm
Cynthia Hutchinson is running it from Automation
Well,
Alley.
I guess what I would suggest is that we bring Tom Kelly in to make
I was going to say,
an update.
it'd be great to have Tom come give a presentation
Yeah.
here, and if Tom can't, Cynthia Hutchinson would be a great
Okay.
person also, because she's the one that's actually running that portion of it. But thank you. You read my mind.
Yeah.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Thank you. I just want to mention to Councilmember Gunn that the company I work for is an American startup, and they have an office in the LDFA. So it's not all foreign companies.
Very good.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Any other questions? So, Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
I'll move I-7, approval of the Joint Local Development Finance Authority Troy Subcommittee, LDFA, proposed fiscal year 2024-25 and 3-year budget as printed in the agenda packet.
Support?
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick, supported by Councilmember Gunn, that we approve I-7, approval of the Joint Local Development Finance Authority Troy Subcommittee, LDFA, proposed fiscal year 2024-25 and 3-year budget as printed in the agenda packet. Any further discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. That concludes regular business. We're going to take a 10-minute recess. we'll go back on the record. Next up with the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Councilmember Hamilton?
I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda as printed and as printed on the late submittal for J3A.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Hamilton, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick, that we approve all items on the consent agenda as printed in the agenda packet with the inclusion of late submittal for J3A. Discussion? Councilmember Gunn.
I just would like to thank the VFW and Troy. They have done an incredible job of increasing membership. They are recognized nationally. They've almost doubled their membership. And what to me makes that Troy VFW so special, it's not just a VFW. This is truly members who've actually been in combat. And I think what Todd has done there has been phenomenal. So I'm really happy that we're moving forward with this, recognizing them as Troy recognizes as a Purple Heart City.
Thank you. Looking forward to having Todd here next meeting to present these, assuming we approve them now. All right. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Oh, wait,
sorry.
one more.
I can't see your hand tonight, David. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, sorry.
Easy with that, but yes.
As I always do, whenever there's major road projects in the consent agenda, I just wanted to call it out. J4A, as we mentioned earlier, is the Rochester Road rehabilitation. Well needed for many years. This is from Trinway to South Boulevard. It'll cover the northern part of Rochester Hills. It won't be covered by the federal part that's coming next year. So look for those barrels this July, and that's going to be, the whole road's going to be resurfaced, so it's going to be nice.
Good point. It's funny to have that high dollar amount on a consent agenda item, but yeah, it's there. Nevertheless, all right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes, motion carries. If you're here for an item on the consent agenda this evening, all have been approved. Next up are memorandums and future council agenda items. I do have K1, announcement of a public hearing. May 20th, 2024 will be the City of Troy Master Plan 2040 public hearing. Looking forward to that. And I'm sure it'll be a good discussion. Next, we move to public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. We do have 2 people signed up this evening. First up is Dale Murish. Dale, you know the rules, but just as a reminder, you have 3 minutes. When the light turns yellow, you have 1 minute left. When it turns red, your time is up.
I'll be quick. I am Dale Murish, Troy resident since 1988. I was dismayed to get the Troy Times a few weeks ago and find an oversized ad for a pot store. I have a couple of extra copies if council members want to study it, but this is the one. This drug is still an illegal substance under federal law, so perhaps the post office should not be able to deliver ads for it. We can probably also block pot ads on billboards in Troy if there are any. I haven't seen one, but there are lots of creative billboards around the state, especially near state lines. The council voted against having grow facilities and dispensaries in Troy. We do not want this drug in our city, period. Our teenagers have enough challenges with handling smartphones and will find a way to get pot just like alcohol. These people are creative at marketing, as you probably saw from the flyer when it came, renaming things to make it seem harmless. Now they're calling it cannabis, a lucrative and highly habit-forming cash crop. They started with medical marijuana, which may help some people with chronic pain. I bet underage people found out who was writing prescriptions for it. In summary, let's write an ordinance to ban advertising for weed, pot, marijuana, and cannabis in Troy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murish. Next up is Cynthia Wilshire.
Good evening. I haven't seen some of you for a long time. Generally, I'm very happy with the way the city's going. I'm happy that U of M is coming here and our beautiful skate park with the theater and all of that and Jeannie Stein's Park. But today, for the 3rd time in a week, I was very upset. I was driving through the neighborhood to my home, and on the corner of Plum and Hickory, there's a sign leaning against a do not parking sign on city property that says, "End the genocide in Gaza." Now, if somebody wants to put that on their front lawn, that's fine with me. It doesn't belong on city property. I called last Wednesday to code enforcement to report it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was informed, which I already knew, that you have volunteers go out and take down signs and things. And I was assured it would be taken care of that evening. I came through the neighborhood again on Friday. It was still there. So I called Mark's office and talked to a gentleman. Mark wasn't there. And went through the same thing, and he agreed that it looked like the city was endorsing, which a lot of people are feeling that way. This sign is right on the way to Morse School and one of our parks, on a through street off of Livernois to Rochester Road. I just would like something done about this sign. My second thing is, we need more action for seniors over 70 at the community center. We just got $25 for giving our opinions why they only have 15 or 20 people eating lunch out of a city this size. And we gave them, this was through University of Michigan, and we gave them our opinions. Thing is, we don't have any programs so people can come. We used to have water aerobics. We had 2 classes of 35 people twice a week. We have nothing now. The only exercise we have is chair exercises that anybody over 70 can do. We were in a quilting group. It will be 28 years this year that we've been quilting. We have done pickleball bags when the cities ask us to donate them. We are currently doing quilts for our military people and their families. And during the pandemic, our group made 850 quilts. We're having a quilt show to show people and get people to appreciate our military people. We used to quilt from 9 to 4 every day, every Wednesday. If the city needed the room, we gave it to them. But I'd like to go further with this at some point.
All right.
Because there's a lot of people that are upset.
Thank you, Ms. Wilshire.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good to see you. That concludes those that have signed up for public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. Now is an opportunity for City Council and City Administration to respond and reply, if so wanted. City Manager Miller.
I just have a question. I didn't catch where that sign was located.
I think she said Plum and Hickory. Yeah. Actually, I have a follow-up question to that, City Manager Miller, and I hesitate to ask from the table. We used to have a pretty active group of volunteers that would go pick up signs from the city right-of-ways, and then I understand that kind of fell apart during COVID, or there were less and less. Is there an update on, is there a big group that does it, or is it a couple of people, or what's the?
I don't know if they're doing it, but I know the code enforcement officers do it, but Meg probably would want to answer. Go ahead.
Actually, right now, we have 8 to 12 individuals we're actively recruiting. I know even last year, there were 3 or 4 individuals that joined the group, so it is a pretty diverse group of volunteers. They split off into teams, about 2 to 4, and go around and pick up signs, so we will follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
Can I volunteer?
I'll go pick it up on the way home.
Yeah, I'll volunteer. I'm serious.
I'm not supposed to do that. City Attorney Bloom said don't do that.
Just to clarify, if the sign is in the right-of-way or on our property, we can confiscate them.
Right, city property.
Yep.
Yeah, city managers and.
More of an operational question, I guess, Meg, for you then. If someone calls in with a sign comment like Cynthia did, is it posted somewhere that the volunteers can see and they could just grab it?
When the volunteers come in, that's all communicated to them, and there's certain areas. They're also out looking, and they'll do patrols for signs as well, so they're taking more into account than just what's being called in.
Okay, good.
So just a clarification, means it's the volunteers are authorized to take up if city is authorizing them? How does it work? Like, let's say election season is coming and somebody calls in and saying, I have an illegal sign on my right of way. What's the next step? You just call the city and?
If there is a legal sign that you would like taken care of, absolutely call the city. You want to talk to code enforcement. Code enforcement oversees the group of volunteers that take care of the signs, and we'll make sure that that gets taken care of.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. It sounds like this is different than, say, you report, say, a stop sign went down or something. I fell and tripped somewhere, reported it, and it was really nice. It went into a system. You got a very quick response when it was handled. So it was also was responded to. I wonder if there's a way to connect that into that system, just because it would be really nice to also. Mr. Busher, to also be able to get some response, just to know it's been addressed. I mean, is there any way of dovetailing that work with the other existing system the city uses?
The system that we currently use for that reporting is robust, and it could be adopted and modified. Code enforcement issues tend to be a little bit more different in some ways, but that is something that we could look into.
I'll just briefly also, Mr. Mersch, thank you for your information. There are restrictions on what we can limit for what gets put on a sign because of the First Amendment rights, but we'll deal with that if necessary. And as a reminder, the Troy Times newspaper is not a city function, it's a private entity, so we can't control what they're sending out in advertisements. But to Ms. Wilshire's point about the senior services, I don't know if you've been watching the meetings, Cynthia, or not, but we've been talking a lot about that over the past year, especially, and we continue to and are actively looking at ways recreation can do more with what they have and what we need to do to ensure that certain age groups are getting the services that they would like to have in this city and how that'll all work out. So we are actively working on that and thinking about it constantly, but it's good to see you come forward and bring it to us. Very aware of the difficulties a lot of our residents are having as it relates to that. But thank you. Thank you. All right, we don't have any council referrals this evening. We do have some reports. Would anyone like to make a comment on any of the reports? Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you. For O2B, which I imagine there's going to be quite a bit more comment from other council members too. This is regarding the community center gym and facility schedule report. I thank city staff for this info. Do have a few questions on it and just a few thoughts I want to share on it. I'll start with my thoughts is that, so right now, the community center's hours are roughly 10% less than what they were pre-COVID. And I know part of the reason is it's just harder to hire people now. It is, nationally, a lot of positions like this are hard to hire. But for me, it is a priority of mine that we do whatever we can to get those hours back to where they were. If whatever is needed from council, I mean, this is just me, one of 7. I imagine council kind of is unified on this, but I would like to see us get to the hours we should be, that we used to be. Whatever is needed from council to do that, is it budgetary, is it direction? I'd like to see if there's consensus on that and what steps would be necessary for that. I would like to get us back to where we were. It's clear this facility, our community center, is beloved. It's massively used by our residents. Whatever we can do to get it open, to hire the people we need to do that, I want to, up the efforts on that. As I did notice on here, and we've got a lot of comments about the badminton hours, and part of the comment here was that badminton hours are actually nearly 12 hours more, 32% increase compared to where they were pre-COVID. Could I get more info on what that entails? What are the hours of that? Is it hours that some of the folks playing it can't access it, or how does that look? Because I'd like a little more clarification. I know there's a lot more pickleball too, and that just goes with pickleball is more in demand now than in the past than basketball, but I'm curious when the open badminton hours, how we have 12 hours more now. I'm curious what that looks like.
Yeah, so before COVID, there was only badminton offered at night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights. And it was from 8:15 to 10:30. Before that, we were open most of the time for basketball. That's where the big hit was taken from pickleball and badminton. So badminton right now has 5:30 to 8, Monday through Wednesday, and 5:30 to 9 on Thursday, Friday. they had brought up, the basketball people wanting more time, and I watch the video every day. I have access to all 4 courts, and so I watch every day, keep a count, and the majority of the time, all the basketball people are gone by 8:45, and there might be 2 courts left of badminton players at 9 o'clock. So as far as the fitness area goes, by 9, there's hardly anybody in the fitness area. So really, it's the badminton people that want the time to go back to where it was. However, they actually have more time now than they did because they're getting at least 2.5 to 3.5 hours each day compared to only having 2 hours 3 days a week before.
And that's after 5:30 PM?
Yeah, 5:30 to 8 or 9,
Okay.
depending on what programs we have going, like basketball and things like that.
Okay.
Councilmember Chanda.
Yeah, I'm following up on that. What I'm hearing, at least based on the people that showed up last meeting, there's a lot of demand. I think the number of people that have become members have increased. So
There are a lot more members that play badminton and pickleball. A lot of the badminton players are actually non-residents because there is nowhere else. Like, we're the only community center in pretty much southeast Michigan that offers badminton. And so everybody comes to us. There's people from Livonia coming out to play. So, moving it to 10:30 isn't going to solve the issue of not having enough courts. That's really what it comes down to. They all still come at 6 o'clock. But if we open later, they're still most likely all going to come at 6 o'clock, and there's still going to be a long wait. So, and pickleball has the same issue. Even with the 225% extra time, right now pickleball is very dead. But in the wintertime, you could have 40, 50 people waiting in the middle of the day to play pickleball. So, to me, it's more of a space issue than a time issue. Because if we stay open later, we're not going to, the only area that's going to be used is the badminton court. Everything else will be dead. And that's, looking at video, I look at it every day, so. It takes a lot of time to do that schedule.
Okay. Councilmember Gunn.
But kind of based on what the residents were saying, it's not so much just the hours. I think it's more of a procedural, like you just described. We have people coming from all over the area to use it, but the residents then can't. I mean, isn't there some sort of procedure could be put in place that put the Troy residents higher priority?
Well, the way the community center is set up, we really can't do that. We could raise the prices on non-residents. That may deter them. That's one option. They do pay quite a bit more now, but.
Because they do that for the pool, right? I mean.
Yeah, and it's a pretty big difference between a non-resident and a resident, probably almost $20 right now.
I mean, that was their biggest,
that
the
was
hours
the main,
and not having the ability because other groups have taken it.
Well, yeah, the other groups are our programs, our adult basketball league, our pickleball ladder. And, if we were to take those out and replace those badminton in those times, you would have those people here speaking to you because you're taking their time away. So, either way, there's going to be people upset because we just don't have the space that we need.
I understand, but I feel like we should protect our residents.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it is for the residents, right? I mean, it is for the residents, and our residents who are paying the fee as well as their, tax-paying residents.
We'll look into it with city management
let's
too,
look
and
at what it takes
see
to open
what,
it up.
what direction we want to go. It will be, staff-wise, we struggle. I mean, even in the mornings, we have 2 people that can work. If those 2 don't work, it's me in the building at 5 a.m. So, it's a struggle because kids don't want to work past 9 o'clock anymore. Their parents won't let them. And, we can't get adults like we used to. We used to have a lot of adults that wanted part-time jobs at night, and we just don't have that anymore.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig.
Thank you. Something I'd raised in the advance, and I want to ask you now, is I'd raised, because I experienced the same thing with the pool. The pool's not able to open before 6 now. We're hearing from Ms. Wilshire, missing water aquatics and such. And I asked, what would it take to, if we consider raising what we're actually paying? Because I look at lifeguards and I cannot believe how little we pay our lifeguards who are responsible for saving my life if something were to happen to me. And I think the answer I had received in the advance was, oh, you've done the research and that doesn't really make a difference in terms of, paying a bit more to track more, to bring them in. So I'll ask you again, because I'm at a loss of what do we need to do to solve this
So
problem?
we have raised the lifeguard wages to starting at $16 an hour now, which is almost $4 more than what they were. We've raised the staff at the desk up to $14, which is $4 more than what we used to pay. So we have increased the wages. For a building supervisor right now, most of them are making $23, $24 an hour. So we have increased all the pay, and we still struggle to get staff. Lifeguard-wise, we're doing better. And that's, I think, partly because we have the 2 new pool managers now, so that helps. And we are looking at going back to opening early in the fall again. So, we will be looking at that as well.
The other thing I think that was proposed 2 years ago in the advance was perhaps maybe give other perks to the lifeguards and the staff working there, that they get free passes and they get free, because I was surprised, I don't actually get a free pass. And then I was told in the advance last year that you had not, the decision was not to implement those
So
procedures.
right now,
those could also be perks.
right now, all staff gets 50% off. That's all city staff, 50% off a pass. We have spoken with HR and finance a few times about it, and I think that's something we'll look back at again, because there are some IRS issues, I believe, with that too. So, so that's something I can get back with Deanna and talk about too.
I want to take a step back for a second because we're here talking about a report. Appreciate this report, not to put you in the hot seat.
Right, no problem.
Well, it is kind of a problem because it's not fair. We're coming at you with a lot of issues. And
It's okay.
I don't think that's necessarily this isn't the right forum, but it leads me to what is the right forum? We know we have a problem, not with staff, but with the issue of our perception of what's happening in recreation in our community center. And things come to us piecemeal, and I'm not sure, looking forward, how we are going to address some of these issues, because I do think it's unfair for you to have to leave here and then try to figure something out and come back to us, have us pick it apart, and then we have to keep going in this method. And I don't know, we talk about capital needs. I heard you say probably 10 times in the past 10 minutes, it's not so much the hours, it's the facilities themselves. We don't have enough space.
Right.
If we had another court of pickleball, another 4 basketball courts that you could be converted to pickleball or badminton, then it wouldn't matter if we were open the extra hour. Now, so that goes back to capital and that goes back to facilities. I see all of this stuff working together, but I do think that we're going to need to, like we are with the library, like we are supposed to be with the aquatic center, we really have to figure out what we're doing with the community center, because we can't sit up here every couple weeks and have our residents come forward and complain. It's not an efficient process for them to just have these conversations and go back. And I read the last line of the memo. The recreation department is unable to extend facility hours given current resources and staffing. Well, that sounds like money, resources, right? But that's also facilities and then staffing. I mean, so I just don't know that we're ever coming up with solutions, and it makes me feel like we're not at the right place. So whether it's a study session or a plan, but we have to be doing some of these big vision planning things, because we're losing. You said that the beloved community center, it's not going to be beloved. It might not be beloved to a lot of the people in the community right now, and that's what scares me, because it's a wonderful facility with great team members, but we're off somehow. Mayor Pro Tem Woodard.
Just to assist with how we collect this conversation, we're the policy setting body. You were looking for consensus. I think perhaps the proper consensus at this point, because there's so many variables and so many factors to consider, is, as a council, I think we have consensus that we are asking staff, administration, to really recognize that more than we even talked about in the budget approval tonight, from a policy setting standpoint, that we're looking for and expecting, for this to continue to be looked at with diligence. And for administration to know, we want to know what it is we need to do to assist. What are the opportunities? What are the ways that we can get to some solutions in meeting these needs? And there's probably things that haven't even been brought up tonight that you're more aware of than anyone. I think there's 7 members on this body saying, hey, we want to be here, we want to have your backs, we want to have our residents' backs. We're open to that evaluation. How can we help serve better? And that's the higher order, so we're not in the weeds. If we start to get in a position where we're choosing hours for things and there's unintended consequences, I really worry about that. So, I want to stay at that policy setting. I think we've already set that policy, but we want, let's reaffirm, let's be vigilant, and know that we want to do and be there for you in the ways that we can. I don't know if that's specific enough.
I think we're also in a transition period in city management, as we know, which makes it
Yes.
a little bit slower than we want it to be, but I'm sure the presumed next city manager is aware of these issues as well. And I would like to see something more for us to sink our teeth into in a constructive time in the next, few months, or if possible, or at least this year. It sounds awful to say, but it's government, right? Because I don't think it's fair for us to try to micromanage from the table. What you're doing, that is your job, right? And I think our policy, but they're that missing. So I just, as a reminder, I guess, to city management and administration, what our priorities are and how we view this, I think is important. And there is consensus.
Yeah, sure. Totally on board. Thanks.
One real quick suggestion. One of the things that I liked was for the library that we were invited to go and see behind the scenes. Maybe it could be the same type of thing where we go and show us the issues that maybe we can, with our eyes, come up with solutions, suggestions.
I think it can be taken under consideration. He'd probably invite you anytime to go visit too.
Right.
But if we want to do something more formal, we can talk about that. This wasn't an action item. Okay.
Yeah, no.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yeah, I'll just thank you, Brian, for the feedback. I appreciate it. I'd like to see, as we talk about capital, and we already mentioned this, but I'll just repeat it just to get the idea in my head. But, as we talk about capital needs, what would it take to expand? In a weird way, we're like a victim of our own success, because clearly the community center is massively in demand by our community, specifically our residents. And, this goes beyond just budget. This is from seniors to, the pool's getting dated. I know we're kind of redoing a few things on it. I took my daughter there a few months ago. My wife takes her there all the time. And the facility is what it is, 25 years old. And it probably needs a refresh. But I'd like to see that added to part of the capital and facilities discussion. What would it take to expand that to meet that demand?
I think we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Respect. So we'll have everything fixed next meeting. Right?
7 days.
Thanks, Brian. All right, that concludes reports. I said we have no council comments. Was that wishful thinking? Councilmember Gunn, council comments.
I have three things real quick. One, I want to make a call out to Anya Shah. So 3 students in the state got 2024 presidential scholarship, and our own Troy, Anya Shah did.
Good.
So Saturday.
She'll be coming for a proclamation,
She will?
I think, this summer.
Good.
Yeah.
Saturday is Armed Forces Day, so this was a perfect week to award VFW for the Purple Heart. And Mike Weber brought up the wall. I was contacted by Lorraine, I'm sure most of you were. And when we started that process, that citizens group, we put pressure on the elected officials who got the money, and I would say now we have to do the same thing. We got to go back, as I talked to Mike, I'm like, we got to go to Sharon, we got to go to Tom Kuhn, we got to go to Mike Weber and say, come on, push the state because squeaky wheel gets the oil, right?
Thank you. Additional council comments? Councilmember Timberlake-Megan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to make a brief comment. Tomorrow is I know it's a very solemn day, but also a day of reflection, also with some celebration, and that is, I know, our annual Police Memorial Awards, both our Memorial Day, where we remember those who lost their lives while serving in active duty, but also a day to recognize the new staff and to celebrate those. It is one of my most treasured, as solemn as it is, of the morning portion. And it's hard for me to say that, and I just wanted to say it publicly. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to be there, and it is my first year since serving that I'm not able to attend due to work and other commitments. I cannot get away. I wish I could. I tried everything I could on my schedule. But please know, I'll be thinking of you all. I'm praying for you all, and thinking of my colleagues who will be there supporting you all.
Thank you. That is, I'm glad you brought that. It's 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Public's welcome out in front of the police station. It's a very nice service, ceremony. Additional council comments? All right. Nobody signed up for public comment for items on or not on the agenda for members of the public outside of Troy. We have no closed session, so we're adjourned.